Hey all, here are OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the Travis Touch Go. This is a smart AI translator that supports over 150 languages. It connects to the internet using either Wi-Fi or 4G LTE. There is an embedded eSIM which is built on in. It includes free service for the first month that you activate it. Afterwards, you can purchase a data plan from them, or you can pop in your own SIM card if you want to use data services when on the road if you're away from Wi-Fi. It can also be used as an offline translator. So when you don't have any internet, you can still use it to translate phrases and words, although the accuracy will be a little bit lower. I would say its closest competitor would be the Langogo translator that we reviewed also recently a few months back, which I really liked. However, the Travis Touch Go is less expensive. The Langogo sells for $299 versus the Travis Go sells for $199. So the price is a lot more competitive and attractive. It also has the same features of being a mobile hotspot, so if you are using it with a SIM card or the eSIM plan, it can connect to other devices and becomes almost a mini Wi-Fi router. Now, about this time last year, Travis did come out with the original Travis Touch, so the Go really adds that embedded eSIM function, but other elements remain largely the same. As the name implies, there is a touchscreen. Underneath, it is running on a customized version of Android. There is built-in Bluetooth, so you can connect it to wireless earbuds and headphones, for instance, if you don't want it to be translating out loud. Here's a roster of some of the current languages which it supports, including different dialects of English, different dialects of Chinese, so on and so forth. Very similar, again, to other smart translators we've checked out recently. In terms of the specifications here, a 2,500 milliamp hour capacity battery, screen measures 2.4 inches diagonally. There are noise-canceling microphones that can pick up your voice even if you're outdoors in a slightly crowded environment. Now, there's two features that aren't available yet at the time of release, but are promised to come through an OTA software update, including an assistant mode, which is similar to Alexa or Google Assistant, where you can use it to ask questions. And there's also a conversation mode, so it can continuously listen and provide conversation translations without the need for you to translate phrases back and forth. I think this is a pretty essential feature, and it's one that some of its competitors, like the WT2 translation earphones, does already offer. So I do wish that this came included and ready out of the box, but overall it is something we should be seeing soon. Now, there's three tiers that this comes from: the standard edition, and there's also a business and a teacher edition. The business and teacher editions require an additional $99, but it's basically just a software lock. It grants you special features. For instance, with business, it includes a sync option, which can also save your translations and automatically send them to your email, which will be done automatically. Now, I do think that this feature should have been just included even in the standard edition, although I realize that this is probably an added cost for them to manage more storage facilities and cloud servers, but again, it's something that we did see on the Langogo on the standard edition by default, although again, that's also a more expensive MRSP price. Now, the teacher edition sells for $99 as well, and this allows you to listen and tell you whether your pronunciation is right or wrong. So it kind of teaches you to say things and learn different languages. Translates in less than 0.1 seconds. It is using a quad-core processor, has 8 gigs of built-in storage and 1 gig of RAM, and again, 20 languages are supported while offline. Here's the box inside. It is a hard cardboard box, and then we have an instruction manual right on top. Welcome to the world of Travis, and then underneath here we have a SIM ejector tool. So that's for inserting your own SIM card if you have an existing data plan that you want to pop in instead of using their embedded eSIM, which is Travis's own data service. We've also got a charging cable. It's micro USB. Taking a closer look at the hardware, it is constructed mostly out of a polycarbonate plastic, but does feel reasonably solid in the hands. Now, it looks like there's kind of a circular round display, but similar to the Moto 360 watch, the bottom two portions are actually cut off. So the screen itself is still kind of square inside of here, but still looks quite elegant. Down below here, we have two hotkeys, one for you to tap on to begin talking in your language, and then one for the other person, the guest, to talk in their language. This is kind of a home key of sorts. And then on the side here, we have the SIM card slot if you want to pop in your own micro SIM. The top features an array of the noise-canceling microphones. a lanyard strap. And then on the other side, there's a dedicated power key. It can also be tapped on to lock the screen. And on the very bottom here, there's a flap that prevents water from getting in, covering the micro USB port for charging, and a standard 3.5mm headphone jack. That's a pretty thoughtful touch. Again, you can also rely on Bluetooth if you want to use a wireless pair of headphones. Now, I do wish that the charging port here would be upgraded to USB Type-C, as we are in 2020, and that is a feature that the Langogo did use a more modern port, but overall, again, considering this is a cheaper unit, it is still forgivable. It takes about 30 seconds to turn on. It says Travis, go global, speak local, powered by Android. Then we're just greeted to the custom interface that's very clean and straightforward. Top here tells us our cell reception, so we have 4G using the eSIM right now, pretty full in terms of the reception. We also have a cloud status, that means we are connected to the internet. The cloud status will also turn on if you have Wi-Fi activated and connected. There's also the battery percentage remaining, and on the bottom here we just have the 2 languages. Currently our default one, the one that I'm speaking assigned to the left side, is in English. The right side here is assigned to Chinese. Changing the translated languages is also easy. You can tap on the flag for the country to go through that entire list. So right now you can scroll through and see various accents of English depending on region. We can also see different other languages as well start to populate. Same thing goes with your language. You can also go through and change it just by sliding along and picking one. Now on the left side here we have a history, which is basically it's keeping a log of all the translated phrases that you've gone through thus far. For example, I said, I believe in you. And this was the translation in French. You can tap on it to kind of hear the translation again. So it will keep that in its memory, which is good.
Are you happy?
And then saying, yes, I'm very happy. So that's how that part works. Although, again, one feature that you don't have on the standard edition, at least if you don't purchase the $99 upgrade, you don't get the ability to send these like a transcript over to your email. That's locked to the business version of the software. Finally, on the right, we have simply the settings. We can tap on network, for example, to go through and turn the mobile data on or off. We can access the Wi-Fi hotspot feature. We can also take a look at Wi-Fi networks available. Now, speaking of Wi-Fi, this comes to perhaps the only critique that I have of the Travis Touch Go, and that is it seems to be rather picky, the Wi-Fi card that they've used, much more than the typical phone or Android gadget that I've seen before. So as a comparison here, we have the Langogo Wi-Fi settings on. We're in the exact same spot, and it's able to stay connected to our router. There's other routers that we're using for testing, which it's also found. Travis is significantly shorter. In fact, for some reason, it's unable to detect all of the routers that I'm using for testing purposes, regardless of if it's 2.4G, 5G, AC, various protocols I've tried with different routers, but for some reason it's always unable to pick it up, which is a con. I hope that this is something that can be fixed in a software update. The strange thing is again, reception quality for your SIM cards, the cellular bands, in addition to the eSIM, are both really strong, as you can see there. So it might be just the Wi-Fi, it could be just my unit that I have here, but it is something to, I guess, keep in mind. General settings allows us to change the font size of the words, which is very convenient, from normal to large. We can also tweak the volume of the speakers, which is very clear. The data plan allows us to quickly see how much data we've consumed. It is a global eSIM, which means that regardless of if I'm in the US, if I'm in China, if I'm in Russia, if I'm in the UK, I can still use it for the first month, and it can access that data, which is good. And I have about 98.7% remaining of data because you get around 30 megabytes of data out of the box. If we bring up an on-screen keyboard for any text field, this is what it looks like. So a very small keyboard, but again, the same thing on the Langogo. Any device with a smaller display will have that same result, and you can see that it is a 2.4-inch screen. The display, by the way, is decent in terms of quality. We have some pretty bright lights on right now, but if we kind of dim those, you can see it's very much readable. It offers pretty decent overall viewing angles, and it does have haptic vibration as well. So whenever you're tapping on a key, the entire thing vibrates. Tapping on any of the keys will return you back onto this main translation screen. Let's try doing a live test. How far in advance should I arrive to the airport for international flights? So I'd say that translation here was pretty accurate and also reasonably fast. It is using, again, 4G, so the included eSIM functionality at the moment, but is fairly snappy. Even if you have Wi-Fi activated, I'd assume that the speed is also very comparable, so within 0.1 seconds, it's translating it. Now, behind the scenes, just like other smart translators, it is using many cloud engines. That's part of the whole reason why it's AI powered. So it's using things like Google Translate, Bing, which means the accuracy is also very good. I would say as good as any other smart translator here in 2020, because it is relying on those same APIs, the same backend engines that's powering it. And of course, Google Translate is getting better day by day as more research is poured into it, as more people type different things in and send feedback. It just corrects itself and learns and improves. One thing you aren't able to do, though, is it seems like read back your original phrase that you've said. It keeps only the translated phrase in its memory. So, for example, if I go into that translated history and I tap on this, it's only going to say the Chinese, but there's no way to repeat the English phrase out loud. 你应该留3个多小时.
You should stay more than 3 hours.
So that translation there was slightly off a little bit, just because I was saying you should leave 3 hours or so to get to the airport. And because it is translating phrases in this case instead of a conversation, of course it doesn't recall the previous sentence that we asked. I suspect this is a problem that will definitely improve once they unlock the conversation mode, where it's able to remember other things you've said in the stream of a conversation. That will improve the accuracy of certain phrases like this, which are in response to a question. How do I get to the city center, and where can I buy some food when I'm hungry? And how can I get back to the hotel when I'm done?
¿Cómo llego al centro de la ciudad y dónde puedo comprar algo de comida cuando tengo hambre y cómo puedo volver al hotel cuando termine?
So yeah, that was actually very accurate. But of course, just like the Langogo, it doesn't really have the punctuation points. So if you've kind of stopped, it doesn't add like a period and start off a new sentence. It keeps everything into one sentence, so it's kind of long. But it's captured everything really well. How do I get to the center of the city? How do I buy something when I'm hungry? How do I get back to the hotel when I'm done or terminated with these activities? Now, to adjust the volume, because there is no volume rocker, you actually use the gesture of swiping up or down from the screen. So I can swipe up like this to raise the volume up and then swipe down to lower it. So that's actually very intuitive. It shows up as a pill shape, just like the screen that they have here. So the entire thing matches the UI and looks quite elegant. Next, I'm going to disable the mobile data, so basically turning off all internet, and now trying to see if it has the offline translation and how well it does in those cases. Turn off the internet. Does this still work?
Así que apagar la internet hace esto todavía funciona.
So you can see that a few things. First of all, with internet turned off, it takes longer to process because it has to use the built-in processing engine and look up its dictionary to retrieve its results. But in terms of speaking the results out loud, it still is easy to understand, and for the most part, pretty close to the overall sentiment. Of course, if you are speaking more complicated and longer phrases, that's when the accuracy is going to drop. So whereas the accuracy for cloud mode would be closer to, again, 90-something%, in the offline mode, I would say it's closer to, 80-something%. Sometimes the translations can seem more robotic and forced because it is using kind of a dictionary and piecing words together as opposed to piecing an entire phrase together based on how commonly people talk. Now, the battery life is also surprisingly robust. We were using it for an hour, and it hasn't actually really dropped significantly, just by 1% or so. So you can definitely use this thing for quite a while. Very strong battery performance, I think slightly better than the Langogo, so optimization is pretty good. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Travis Touch Go. A convenient eSIM function and also a lower price point that's more attractive than most of the competitors that we've seen. With that being said, there are definitely some weaknesses here. For example, I find that the slightly pickier Wi-Fi antenna is a little bit odd, and hopefully something that I can fix. Regardless, the Touch Go is a nice evolution for the Travis Touch series, presenting that embedded eSIM function and just overall giving us a slightly more polished UI experience at a reduced price. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below, but that's been the Android-powered smart translator, the Travis Touch Go. Very strong battery life and nice offline translation and cloud translation dual capabilities.